Top of the top, welcome once again. My name is Lewis Slacher. I am a footballer and property entrepreneur, and today, why don't we speak about the tips and tricks to consider as a first time home buyer right here in the motherland? As we know it, it is highly unlikely that the average South African has 2 million rand sitting in their bank account ready for a property transaction. That is why it is so common that people get financing through the banks or institutional financing. And what this basically means is that you go to the bank and tell them that you would like to purchase a property, and then they will fund that property for you, and you just have to pay them back in the form of a bond, and that's what you call a bond repayment. One thing to consider is that the banks lend on collateral. So when they lend you money, they have to have something that they can take away from you in order to retrieve the funds that they've given. So let me explain. When the banks give you a loan, there has to be something tangible that they can take away from you if you don't honor your debt. And it is why people get repossessed. So if a person doesn't honor their debt in terms of their bond, and they default on their bond once, twice, three times, the bank will then take repossession of that property and sell it in order to regain their losses. But anyways, so the banks look at two main things. They first look at your credit score, and that is basically your performance as a debtor towards the banks. So that is your credit score in terms of how well you perform when you are given debt, how quickly you service your debt, do you actually service it, and different things like that. And then they look at your affordability. Your affordability is how much you qualify for to receive a bond. So your affordability could be 500,000, 600,000, a million rand, half a mil, 2 million rand, etc., etc. To determine your affordability, you have to take your salary minus your expenses, and then you're left with your disposable income. So you take your disposable income and times that by 100 in order to get your affordability. Right. The second thing you need to consider as a first time home buyer, are you buying an asset or are you buying a liability? And the difference is basically in the form of the cash flow. Is money going out of your bank account or is money coming in? If money is coming in on a monthly basis off that property, you have bought an asset. And if you are spending money every single month, that means you have bought a liability. People say that the best investment that you can make is property. You can never go wrong with property. Just buy property. That's not necessarily 100% the case. If money is coming in, that means you have bought an asset. And if money is going out, that means you have bought a liability. So how do you determine this? You determine this by looking at the gross rental income, so how much rent you collect, minus your monthly operating expenses, including your bond. So if you bought a sectional title, an apartment, in other words, you will look at your gross rental income, your bond repayment, your levies, your rates and taxes, your insurance, and etc., etc. And if you have a positive amount at the end of the month, that means you're cash flowing positively and money is coming into your pocket, and therefore you have an asset. On the other hand, if your gross rental income minus your monthly operating expenses, including your bond, and you have to subsidize that property, that means you have bought a liability because consistently money is going out, and that is a very critical part to consider. I mean, it's totally okay to buy a residential property, but I'm just saying, if you're buying a rental investment property, if you're buying for an investment, you need to make an investment decision according to the numbers. And the third thing that you need to consider as a first time home buyer is the hidden costs. The hidden cost is basically your transfer duty and your bond registration costs. So for a property to register into your name, from in the title deed, so it will go from my name to your name, and there has to be a certain fee that you pay for that. Transfer duty or transfer attorney costs. Properties that are under R1 million don't get a transfer duty fee, but you still have to pay for the transfer cost for an attorney. That is also another thing to consider. And then you can also look at the fact that the asking price is not necessarily how much you have to give forward to the seller. That's why you sign something called an offer to purchase. An OTP, or an offer to purchase, is how much you are offering to spend on the property. And to make an informed decision on the amount that you offer, you can look at a tool called the Lightstone report. So basically what the Lightstone report is, it gives you how much the properties in that street or in that area have been sold for, and how much the owner bought it for. And you can make an informed decision by getting this information from the Lightstone property app, or you could go on a tool called the TPN, or the tenant profile network, and it will give you the data when it comes to that property or that sectional title or that complex, to see how much are the other properties being sold for, how much the owner purchased the property for. You can get all this information in order to make an informed decision. And also on your offer to purchase, you could put in there suspensive conditions that the sale of the property is subject to you being satisfied with things that you want to be satisfied with. So the main expenses in a property that are very costly are things such as your roof. If you have a problem with the roof, or damp, or a structural crack, if you discover a structural crack, or if there's cracks underneath the pool, or if there's damp in the cupboards and you're not happy with this, you have to pay for all these expenses. So you can put in there that the sale is subject to you being satisfied with XYZ. But I do urge you to go and contact a property attorney, a property specialist attorney, who could help you with formulating and signing your offer to purchase. If you do pull out of the offer to purchase or the sale transaction, you sometimes can be liable for the agent's commission. So what an offer to purchase is basically a legally binding document. So when you give that offer to purchase and you sign it and give it to the seller, and they sign it and accept it, it becomes a deed of sale. So now the transaction has to take place. And in order to compensate these people for their resources, their time, and for the loss of revenue, if you're going to pull out of the deal and not honor the contract, you will be liable for certain fees. This is only to protect both parties, because you don't want to take your kids out of school, literally buy tickets to move to a different city, and then a seller all of a sudden pulls out of the deal. The contract is only there to protect both parties. And those are some of the things that you can consider as a first-time home buyer. So the hidden costs. Once again, you could buy a property worth R1 million, but you still need to pay for those transfer costs, the transfer duty, and the bond registration fees. These are hidden fees apart from the amount that is stated on Property 24 or private property. So these are the different types of things to consider, and it's very easy to find out these amounts. You can go on an app, or an app called Ooba, and you can just write there the purchase price, the interest rate, and the number of years, the state, the state of the buyer. Is it a company? Is it a trust? Is it a natural person? And it will also give you an option if it is VAT registered, if you're buying a property that was bought by a company that for some reason decided to be VAT registered for that property. You can go and check out all of this information down below in the description. I will post the how to check your credit score, how to check the hidden fees, how to check how much the property is actually worth, how much other properties have been sold in the area on the Lightstone property app. And I hope you found real good value in this, and I encourage you to hit the like button if you learned something new, and I encourage you to share this with someone who you think might find value out of it. It's been real, it's been great. Thank you for your time. Cheers.